Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot. We charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk, a podcast where we deep dive into the writing of your favorite novels. This is Jac.
And I'm Amy. In Season 1, we explored Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses. In our post-season content, we look forward to sharing listener feedback and thoughts we received over the last 8 weeks, as well as interview content from some special guests.
The views expressed by the hosts and guests are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author. This podcast is a discussion shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series spoilers may be discussed with or without warning. Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, and depression will recur throughout the podcast. Listener discretion is advised.
Joining us today is Brittany Vasseur, also known as Vasseur Beauty. As a YouTuber and lifestyle and beauty blogger, Brittany has built a community around real-life topics and discussions. Her videos on organization, cleaning, DIY, and beauty have honestly been a godsend to us, and we have a list of new things to try every week. Brittany has also built a connection with her audience and her discussion around literature. To our pleasant surprise, Brittany was an early supporter of the podcast after reading Thorns and Roses as well as Mist and Fury and recommending the novels to her community. We are thrilled to have Brittany with us today to share her thoughts on A Court of Thorns and Roses and discuss some of her and our favorite reads. Welcome, Brittany.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and chat books, my favorite topic of the moment.
You have the best highlights on your Instagram page. I love going through all of your top reads. You posted something today about all of your top reads, which I definitely want to come back to.
Yes, I ranked them all so far this year.
That's awesome. I haven't seen your Instagram post yet, so I'm going to have to go back. I'm always interested to see what people are reading when, we intersect with people here with Sarah J. Maas, but where does their reading orbit travel out to? Because sometimes there's a lot of overlap and sometimes there isn't.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I also have some questions for you guys at the end too, because I want your recommendations.
Oh, we have a list. We're ready.
Awesome.
We discussed it thoroughly and the pros and cons of which one to do. So we're proud of this list.
Ooh, I'm excited.
So to start off the interview today, when was the first time you read A Court of Thorns and Roses, and what were your initial thoughts?
So I read A Court of Thorns and Roses in January. And just as a little backstory there, for most of my life, I was obsessed with just self-development books, very non-fiction. And then on vacations, I would read some fiction, some mystery and thrillers, but I'm very sensitive. And so that genre was giving me nightmares. Mm-hmm. So I decided for my New Year's resolution, I was going to try to read one book from every genre, a fiction book. So I started with sci-fi and I read Project Hail Mary, which I was so surprised by how much I loved it because I never had any interest in sci-fi. So I'm like, this is really cool. So next we're going to do fantasy, which I would say I had the least amount of interest in fantasy. It just seemed so corny to me. Like it seemed lame, stupid. I had no interest. I didn't even like any of those shows like Game of Thrones, things like that. But I'm like, this is my New Year's resolution, my experiment. And I came across A Court of Thorns and Roses on TikTok, which is also how I found you guys, because people seemed really passionate about it. And that's something that I love. I want to see a book that moves you, that makes you feel something. Like it seemed like so many people were passionate about this. So I was curious. And when I started reading it, I would say it didn't initially hook me in. I kind of had to force myself through the first quarter of the book. And then as it started going and I was getting more into the world, I got more and more into it. I was very much into the romance, and I had never even heard the word fae before. I'm like, fae, are they fairies? Like I'm trying to visualize this, and I had no spoilers going into it. So I really went in blind, and I really went in.
You went in pure. You went in pure.
I went in so as pure as possible. And I kind of just went in as a very superficial reader, which is what I have to say I've loved so much about your podcast, looking at it through a different lens. And I'm also kind of taking that lens and that analysis to books I've read since. And it gives you just a different appreciation and perspective on what you're reading. Because when I was reading this initially, I mean, it was just pure entertainment. I wasn't thinking too deep about anything. I was just enjoying the ride, if you will.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. I got goosebumps because I love hearing when people say, wow, you taught me how to read differently, which is really exciting for us because this is what we love to do. And I definitely read it very superficially to start with as well, even though I have this analysis background.
Yeah, I think it's like a certain amount of whiplash. I mean, that's what Sarah J. Maas does is like you're reading it, you're fine. And then all of a sudden you're under the mountain. You're like, wait a minute, something happened. And now I'm hooked. I don't know what happened here.
Yes. Right? That was kind of the turning point. I'm like, wait a second. Am I really into this? Every day I'm looking forward to, because I start reading every night at 9:30.
Oh, that's like a good pace though, because you turn off your phone, computer, I'm sure, and then you go to bed.
Yes. And that is one thing I will say why I wanted to commit and get into reading is because I was so addicted to my phone. I couldn't focus on anything. Like I'm constantly, and I do social media for a living. So I'm getting notifications. I feel this compulsion to constantly check my phone. So I would make it a rule at 9:30 every night. My phone goes on silent and I read until I fall asleep, which is somewhere between like 11:30. And that's what I've done pretty much every night. I have not watched any shows or movies. One movie I watched, but I'm now like just a total bookworm and I love it.
That's amazing. That's goals right there. I wish, I mean, technically we have been reading every night, but it's just been the same book over and over. It's been fury. It's just been continuing. You said something about, this is the first time that you heard the word fae. I think this was for me too. It was with this book. Where the concept of fae, and all of a sudden I'm like, is that like sexy fairy? What does that mean?
Yeah, I was so interested. And then my husband, I'm telling my husband what I'm doing. He's like, you're reading about fairies? I'm like, yeah, but they're really hot fairies.
It's like, let me describe to you wings. Let me tell you about wingspans. They're very important.
They're sexy fairies with wings and they're kind of like bats.
Yeah, like they're hot. It's okay. So, first impressions of the book, right? Like just it's never what it seems. What were your first impressions with Farah and Tamlin during the first time you read this? And this is a safe space. We all like Tamlin to begin with.
Yeah, I remember when I first was reading it, and I'm posting things live, real time on my Instagram stories, and I'm like, I posted something like, "Is it weird that I have a crush on a fantasy like fairy creature from the Spring Court?" Something to indicate that it was Tamlin. Yeah. And people were like, no. And I was like, I was getting spoilers a little bit. No. What are you talking about? I loved him the first time I read it. I mean, I didn't see the red flags until much later. Frankly, till the second book, really. So I was just swept up in it. I was eating it up.
I mean, red flags are in book form, not in real world, folks. But red flags in book form are just kind of, like they're hot, they're nice. I mean, he pins her against the wall and bites her neck and drops her cookie. It's like, okay,
it's sexy.
I'm like, yeah, I can't be mad at that. But
exactly. So then I kind of felt dumb after, thinking about it later. And I really think it takes more of a obvious turn in the second book than it did in the first book. But now looking back, I'm like, wow.
I agree. It's more obvious in the second book because both he and Feyre are experiencing this PTSD, right? And it's manifesting or aggravating the traits that they already had that aren't that great when they're together. Whereas in the first book, it's more like childhood trauma. This is just how he is. So it's really easy to kind of just gloss over.
And I will say Rhys has some of his own red flags, which because we see him more in book 2, we'll talk about them a little bit more. They're also sneaky and hidden because SJM is a good writer.
Exactly. And I feel like she wanted the audience. I mean, she was taking us on that journey. She wanted us to first fall in love with Tamlin. And I feel, maybe this is me reaching, but I feel like she was trying to illustrate how quickly even relationships that might seem perfect can turn and can take an abusive turn. And that might be something that people reading can take with them in real life to maybe look more for red flags in real life.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point. It's almost a lesson to us. It's one of the takeaways that not even heroines are safe from relationship issues.
Yeah. I mean, there's abuse comes in many forms and it doesn't start off the bat that way. It progresses, and we definitely see that progress with Feyre. And sure enough, one day it changes.
Yep, exactly. And it just, I mean, you can look back and say there was definite signs, and then all of a sudden there's a shift where it becomes like obvious this is not a healthy relationship.
So while you were reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, either in addition to or apart from Feyre and Tamlin, were there dynamics that you found particularly interesting between some of the characters? And that could be during your first read or after thinking more about the book.
So I was very caught up and curious about Feyre's relationship with Rhysand, because he's the villain. He's this bad guy who is coming across very dark, but yet, and so he's an enemy, but yet when she was really struggling and suffering and on the brink of death, he was the one who is stepping in to save her. And so remember, I had no spoilers here, but I'm like, what is going on with this? Like, do I hate him? Do I like him? He's her enemy and doing these awful things, but also at the end of the day, he's the one stepping in to save her. So I was very curious about what was going on there. And then when there was the tattoo and the bond, I started to realize, okay, there's definitely something more going on here. And I didn't quite know where it was going. Definitely did not expect where it was going, but I was very intrigued by that relationship.
Absolutely. I'm so happy you got to have that experience of not knowing really spoilers going into it, just because by the time Amy read it, she knew, like, she kind of had an idea of where it goes. And when I read it, the first book had only just come out. So I understand what you're coming from, where it's like, wait, who are you? I'm loyal to Tamlin. Who's this guy? You're making me confused. Why are you being nice?
Exactly. I was very confused and intrigued by that.
Yeah, when I read the book for the first time, I already knew that Feyre and Rhysand ended up together and Feyre ends up as High Lady. And so the first book was like, okay, why are we even here? Why is she human? What's going on?
I don't think I knew you knew that much.
I did.
I thought, that's like the whole thing.
Yeah. So but I love the journey. I love seeing how writers get from point A to point B. It wasn't a letdown for me to know those things. I was interested in how does she go from loving this person and hating Rhysand to then being with Rhysand. So I wasn't disappointed that I knew ahead of time.
Yeah. And SJM does the work. Like, she really does the work to make us believe that she would fall out of love with Tamlin and in love with Rhysand.
I didn't know how she could do it because I was so attached to her and Tamlin. And then as it started, shifting, I'm like, okay, my heart is there. I'm believing it.
Yeah. I get that. I was so angry when Feyre said that Rhysand was the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. I was like, girl, no, be loyal.
Like, wait a second. What?
I was like, no, you're not supposed to say that out loud. So what are some of the themes in the podcast that stood out to you? And like, what insights did you come up with as a result? And just kind of recapping, we talked a lot about food as power, painting as the feminine, smashed doors, and then Farrah as the dough.
So all of them I found fascinating. I think the one that has stood out the most is the symbolism of the door. And one thing you might find interesting. So now, as you kind of brought that up throughout the book and these different symbolic meanings, now I'm just finished The Bridge Kingdom, and there's something in this book about eyes. And I'm like, eyes in this book are kind of like doors in Akatar. And so I'm like kind of bridging that connection that I learned from listening to the podcast, which I found so interesting and nothing I would have ever picked up on or thought about just reading it superficially. But all of them I found very interesting, but probably the door theme stuck with me the most.
I read The Bridge Kingdom earlier this year, and I can see what you're saying with that, with the eyes.
Yeah, the author always, I don't know the name of the author, but she always brings up their eyes and the eye color and how the eyes are looking. I'm like, there's more to this.
Yeah, if there's an eye situation happening, like pay attention. It's just every author has their, I don't know, not tick, their trait of like, pay attention. I'm talking about this.
Yes, there's more meaning here than meets the eye.
Yeah, and the eyes are, I think, as Jacqueline has either said before or will say next season, eyes are the window to the soul, right? So windows are just different types of doors. And so that's a great point that a lot of authors do use eyes for symbolism.
I'm like, I said that? I'm going to say that? I don't. Okay. I don't remember. I'm sure I did.
Pretty sure.
I'm sure I did or will. It's all blurred together.
So going back to this idea of really loving Feyre and Tamlin that first time you read the novel, we talk about how Feyre has to really work to convince herself that she loves Tamlin as the trials go on under the mountain. What do you think, or what did you think about their dedication to one another by the end of Thorns and Roses?
So by the end, I was very frustrated with Tamlin because it just felt like he had given up. He wasn't trying to help her, and other people were, and he had this excuse that I can't even look at you or it's going to make it worse for you. So as the book was going on, the less I believed their dedication to one another, specifically hers to him.
I love that everyone caught that. I don't know. I was just so like, they're in love and she's a fae now. I'll take it. I did not. I just walked away just taking what I could get. But a lot of people picked that up.
I think because Feyre does come across very early on as I take no bullshit. And so even though she's saying that she's there for Tamlin, like at her core, we know that she doesn't really tolerate bullshit.
What I couldn't understand is why other people were able to come in and help her, and he just was doing nothing. He was doing absolutely nothing. And that started to frustrate me.
It's like a deep-seated hidden frustration too, because like I think we're so busy trying to find excuses and rooting for him. Like I know people have talked about they just kept waiting for the punchline or something like, and this is the moment and this is the moment. And for a book that has a pretty great climax, it's also extremely anticlimactic when it gets to that point.
Yes, like too little, too late.
Maybe this is TMI, but he definitely reminded me of my father. So I was like, this isn't good. This is too much.
We're going to analyze here now, Amy, a different analysis.
Too much like my parents' relationship. So I was like, there's something wrong here.
So we have an out-of-pocket question for you we did not prepare you because we like to surprise our guests. Do you think Feyre is actually good at painting? Or is everyone just being nice to her?
You know, I think she is. I believe it. I believe the vision. The passion is there. I think anything that you are really passionate about, if you're putting your heart into it, who are we to judge?
Oh, I love that.
That's such a positive way of looking at it.
That's what I teach my 5-year-old son. As long as he knows he did his best and he's proud of it, then that's all you can hope for.
I love it.
I definitely was raised in a similar way. And lost many things, but I would when I was a kid, I lost a lot of swim races. And then afterwards I'd look at my mom and be like, it's okay, I finished.
Oh my gosh. That's my goal for my son. That's how I want him to feel.
Yeah, you're definitely on the right track, because that was very inspiring. I was like, oh, that's beautiful. No more teasing Farah that she's not a good painter, Amy, because that's clearly all you who did that.
Apparently.
Not me.
I have to say, to defend the claim that Farah is a good painter, I thought about how critical she is of herself and how she looks. I think she would be critical of what she does, right? Especially when it comes to art and beauty.
Yeah. If she was a bad painter, I don't think she would look at her work and be like, it's passable. She never says that she's good. She just always says, it's there. Mm-hmm. So her nature, I think, would definitely be much more, critical on it. Mm-hmm. Also, wouldn't have Nesta have ripped her apart too?
Absolutely.
Right? What are those fingers? No, they're flames.
Oh gosh.
What are you excited for us to cover in Mist and Fury?
I'm so excited for season 2 because Mist and Fury has my heart. That book just rocked me towards the end. I mean, I was getting through it. Everyone said, oh, just wait. And I'm like, okay, we have a lot of politics going on, a lot happening. Where's the payoff? And then when finally, Rhys reveals his whole backstory and everything that's really been happening, and they get together, my world just exploded. So I'm so excited for you to cover the last 25%, which immediately after finishing, I went back and I reread it because I had read it too fast. I'm like, wait, I need to do this again.
Oh, yeah.
More slowly.
That's such a theme for SJM is every single one of her books, it's always the last 25% that just does it.
Yep. Everything is built up for that last 25%. You said something interesting, Brittany, about kind of drudging through the politics. It's so interesting you say that, because I was thinking about that this morning, about how Mist and Fury actually is a really politic light introduction to fantasy novels and politics in fantasy novels, because some books really go hard on it and it's not palatable at all. I think SJM strikes a good balance, but I can see when you don't know where it's going, it can be very difficult to get through.
Yeah. And for me, what I've realized in my reading journey is that it's the romance that keeps me invested and keeps my heart interested and just keeps me wanting more. So I like that interplay between the fantasy, the world, the politics, but then I need that romance to keep me hanging in. So that's why I've now decided my favorite genre is fantasy romance. It needs both for me to really love it. I
agree so much with this, on a deep level. Amy and I are both writers, and as I've been mapping out my series, I just keep being the key moments are these romantic moments, and I just got to make other things happen in between to get there, essentially.
Yeah. Everything has to be believable, but let's hone in on the romance, because that's all I want to write about.
Yes. That's so cool that both of you are authors. You'll have to keep me updated. I would love to read whatever you come out with.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's our goal, is definitely. Amy's closer than I am, but maybe one day I'll catch up to you.
Well, it's a journey. SJM makes it look easy, and it's not easy. So
it's not. It's all about revisions. The amount of things that her editor has taken out. Have you read Silver Flames yet?
Yes, I read the full series.
Okay. Apparently, there is a scene, a certain menage a trois scene that was removed because the editor was too much. No.
Oh my God. Wait, who was the alleged threesome between?
It was, I believe, Nesta, Az, and Cassian. That's what I'm putting together. Because she talks about it, right?
It's just cruel. Why would you do that?
No. Do you know anything about the rumored next book? Who's going to be in it? Is it Az?
Have you read all of her series?
No.
Throne of Glass, Crescent City?
I'm saving. I have this weird way that I pick books. Right now I'm doing a palate cleanser because when I get into a series, I get fully invested. I have to read the whole thing. And so I know Thrones of Glass is 8 books. So I can't commit to that yet.
Yeah, don't go there until you're I don't know, you have a lot of time.
Yeah. So then I'm thinking Crescent City, but then that's not completed, right?
I will say I highly encourage you to read Crescent City, and it'll help. That's all I can say. And don't tell anyone you're reading Crescent City. Like, I don't want your followers to ruin this for you.
Yeah, I'm worried I'm going to see spoilers because I'm really deep on book talk, and things pop up when I see like spoiler. I'm like instant swipe. Yeah. So that would be your recommendation next, like for her.
Yeah, the first book I think for Crescent City was pleasant. It was, I was just like, oh, we're getting a lot of similar things until I reread it. I'm like, oh, okay, it's not so similar. The second book is, Amy and I describe the second book the same way we describe Silver Flames, where it's a lot of prep work for the next book. Just send us a DM once you've gotten there. Let us know.
Okay.
So let me tell you this. I have not read Throne of Glass. I had no intention of reading Crescent City. And then I saw a video on TikTok that said that the individual had read ACOTAR, had no intention of reading Crescent City, but her friend read her the last 4 words of the second book of Crescent City. And she's like, okay, I have to go read it.
Well, now you just got me to read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I would say.
I feel like on Book Talk, especially, like you only have a certain amount of time before everyone stops saying warning, spoiler. It was when Hosab, the second book of Crescent City, came out. I felt like I was on a time bomb. I was like, I have to read this, otherwise I'm going to see someone's going to spoil it.
Yeah, I'm already worried, but thankfully my followers have not really spoiled much. They are always excited when I'm reading something that they love, and they're like, just wait, it's so good. So I get encouragement, but not many spoilers, which is good.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
I have to say, you have the nicest and the sweetest followers. I like looking through comments. That's part of like my daytime job. And I enjoy just like looking at communities and just finding safe spaces online is hard nowadays, I think, because there's always something and people always just kind of like bring their own stuff or toxicity there. And you just always have such a great followership. Like your comments are just a happy place.
Yes. Oh my, I feel so lucky because I'm very sensitive. I'm an empath. I am a highly sensitive person. And I could not be doing what I do and be in the public eye if I did not have the most amazing, supportive community out there. I mean, I'm biased, but I don't even worry about my comments. A lot of creators, they have like all these blocked words and they're constantly checking their comments. I don't have to worry about that because it's so supportive. And now even more so, like, I think this was a question, so I don't mean to jump ahead, go. Now connecting with my audience through reading has made it even that much more. I have probably like 100 conversations going on at any one time in my DMs talking about books and characters. And I have so many people to talk to and get recommendations. So it's been really fun.
And that's an ongoing theme that we've had with our listeners too, of just like not having people in their daily lives necessarily to talk to about these things. So being able to go online and to talk to people about it, it's always exciting. And then the fact that you're actually facilitating that conversation is amazing too.
Yeah. And something now that I am so upset. I mean, I'm so obsessed with reading. It's become a personality trait. Like it's a major part of my personality, but I feel, in my role as a quote unquote influencer, which I absolutely hate that word. That's a side note, but I am like proud that at this time, I'm influencing a lot of people to start reading again who hadn't read in a long time or, just completely forgot about how much they love reading. I mean, most of my comments that I get every day now are like, you inspired me to start reading again. And that makes me really happy because it brings me so much joy and to get to spread that to others who are kind of in the same boat that I was 6 months ago. I mean, I'm new to getting into all of this.
That's really, really powerful to be able to be in the spotlight and to influence people for good. It's a way that's enriching their lives that when we're on our screens all the time is really hard to get, I think, at least.
Yes. And, I just posted this on my stories and I didn't know this. And now that I do, it makes me feel that much better. But they've done research that reading has such a powerful effect on your whole psychology, your stress levels, your cortisol levels. They found it even to be more effective than meditation in reducing stress levels. So there's so many benefits, and especially in the society we're living in, things going on in the world that are really heavy like that. Like I was having a hard week with what's going on in the world. And, I've picked a really light, fun, happy book to read. And it definitely helped me feel better and it kind of get out of that, reality and into this fun, magical place where everything is good.
Absolutely. I mean, reading has always been a very powerful tool for people. I'm like, I never talk about personal things on here, but like when I was 12, my dad died and my book of that was like really into was Harry Potter. And he was talking and like around that time, sorry, spoiler for Harry Potter if you haven't caught on that one, but like Sirius died. And I just remember like that was a very powerful linkage between the two because it's hard to process emotions sometimes in the real world. So it's easier to process them through characters.
Wow, that's really powerful. And I've actually never read Harry Potter, believe it or not.
I spoiled it.
Well, no, I won't remember that if I ever
I'm like, everyone's read this. I'm going to say the most non-spoiler spoiler. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I don't even know if I will ever read it or not. Maybe I will at some point. But yeah, I mean, exactly. Like you can go through reading and help you process your own emotions and your own experiences.
So you mentioned having so many conversations with your followers in your DMs about books and about characters. Are there books that your community has recommended to you that you've read that you've really enjoyed?
Yes. So one thing I really like to look for when I'm picking books, I spend way too much time picking the next book because I'm investing my life into this. Like
Yes.
This is many hours of my life. I don't want to waste my time. So I want something that people are really passionate about. And I also find it so interesting, especially if you're on Goodreads. It's like 5-star. This book changed my life. This book was amazing. And then like 1-star. This is the worst book I've ever read. So a lot of people have been recommending to me Blood and Ash.
From Blood and Ash.
From Blood and Ash. But then that one, the reviews really have me freaked out because it's like 5-star or 1-star. There's not much in between. So I'm a little nervous about that. But one that I was highly recommended and did love was The Love Hypothesis, because that was my next genre. Was rom-com, or what do you call that?
It's a rom-com, but it actually came from a Kylo Ren and Rey fan fiction, a Star Wars fan fiction.
No, Star Wars fan fiction?
It was a Star Wars fan fiction first online.
Gosh, well, that is so fun. I mean, it was so in my opinion, so well executed. I mean, the banter. I love, like, my favorite thing is good banter, good, smart banter. And it was a smart book. I mean, it was about intelligent people, at Stanford, they're scientists. And I felt like it was smart, because sometimes those types of books could be dumbed down. The banter is top notch. It got spicy. I didn't see that coming. I mean, I love that one. And I think that's the one I kind of now recommend as a good entry point into reading, because it kind of got my interest really early on. I didn't think, like, for me, like, the book I'm reading now, the dialogue is a little like cheesy. I'm not quite getting there with the dialogue. I thought it was smart. It was a smart, well done rom-com.
Yeah, I wasn't really into rom-coms. But that book, The Love Hypothesis, really made me change the way because I love rom-com movies. So why don't I love rom-com books? I need to.
Exactly. Sometimes I'm just like, I stopped reading The Hating Game, which I know that's so popular, but it was too forced for me. I mean, maybe I just needed to get further. I only got like 40%, but I just couldn't do it. It was too cheesy for me.
So your listeners I keep saying listeners, your followers have, given you some great suggestions. And I think we talked before about what we would suggest. So Amy and I put together a list of 4 books that we highly recommend, and we'll tell you why. And I'm not saying whichever book you choose more means you like me or Amy more, but I will say that's what it is. So,
oh my gosh, I'm excited.
Okay, so for my first book I recommend is called A Kingdom of Exiles by S.B. Nova. And it's a very well-paced book. I will say it's subtle. I'll say that it gets a lot done in a short amount of time. And I think it was one of the most beautifully written fantasy novels of today. It's currently it's the first book in a series. The other books are not out. S.B. Nova is an author who I would personally love to interview if we ever got an opportunity, but this book does not get the hype it really needs, and highly recommend that one.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Is there romance in this one?
It doesn't have any spice, not yet, but it has some romance.
Yeah, and it has some really interesting relationships that are not romantic relationships that really add value to it. And I also love that book. And I actually really love the non-romantic relationships. They were developed really well. The characters are really full, and you feel the love, that bond between the characters.
I like the romantic relationship because it has tension, and I love tension.
That too.
I'm writing all of these down. The book I'm reading right now, I'll probably finish it tonight, so I'm ready for the next.
Oh, nice. One. Yeah. Okay. We have several more now. Amy, your turn.
So one of my recommendations is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. And this is the first book in a series. What's really interesting about this book from a writing perspective is that it is first person present, which is kind of an unusual thing to read. A Court of Thorns and Roses is first person past tense. So it's a very different style. But what I love about this, there are some similarities with A Kingdom of Exiles. It has I feel like this cheapens it, but a sort of Hunger Games element to it. It is kind of a fantasy sci-fi novel, but the characters are really interesting, and every decision has a consequence. There is a romance a small romance element to it in this first book. It is the first book in a series. That's not the main point. It's really about this one character's journey and how he keeps making mistakes, and he never learns from his mistakes. And it's really fascinating.
I love that one. It's like Amy said, it's a sci-fi. I am not a sci-fi gal. It's written by a man. I'm not saying I don't read books by men, but I'm also like, give me my romance. But I still very much enjoyed it. It was I think he's going to also be known. His name is Pierce Brown. I think he's in LA. I want to find him. But I think he's going to end up being known as a great author as the years go on.
So I just pulled up my Goodreads as you're talking, and that one is on my list.
Oh, nice.
Already. So
look at that.
I must have seen it. So I also read through Reddit forums to look at reviews and things. And somebody I wrote a very beautiful review and recommendation of how that book really moved him or her. I don't remember details, but it looks great.
Yeah, the whole series. So it's initially a trilogy, and then he just started a new trilogy, like 10 years post the original trilogy. So I haven't started that new trilogy, but it's so worth reading. I think about it a lot.
Yeah. And like I said, or like Amy said, it's from a writing perspective. He does first person present tense, and it blows my mind that he does it well. You don't see it done often, and you see it done well even less than that. So I was just like, oh, he did the thing that in writing class they said not to do.
Wow, he's breaking the norms.
My next recommendation is A Fate of Wrath and Flame by K.A. Tucker. And this is the first book in her series, with the second book being released on July 12th. And this is one that I don't recommend books to Amy too often. And the ones that I have been A Court of Thorns and Roses, Red Rising, and A Kingdom of Exiles. So I don't recommend things to Amy specifically unless I like them. And this is one that I'm like telling her I recommend. So which means I recommend them to you too. And it's another high fantasy novel. I don't think it's fairies. Not the way that like Thorns and Roses is, and the romance is a enemies to lover, slow burn, but once it burns so good.
Oh, I'm excited. That one's also on my list. I just pulled it up.
Yeah. It's a great one.
And I like the cover too.
I love a good cover.
I'm a little bit of a cover snob, and this is a conversation I would like to get into at some point. If it has a bad, cheesy cover, it's just harder for me to go there.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And also with names, with the titles of it too,
Yes.
But like covers, I've read so many books just because it's a cool cover. Same with wine.
Yes. You know what? They say don't judge a book by its cover, but I do.
I do.
Well, that's a saying for a reason, because people do.
But guess what? We're right, because it's a cool cover and it's a cool book. So there.
Yeah, this one looks so good. Now this is only 3 out of 4, right? And I don't know what to pick first. Oh yeah,
here's the fourth one.
So the fourth one is actually something I recommend to everyone. It is a book I read every summer. It's technically considered a children's novel. It was written in the 80s, but it is truly one of my most favorite love stories. And it's not a spicy romance, but it's Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. And most people know the title from the Miyazaki film that was animated in 2007. The novel and the movie have some overlap, but there's a lot more darkness in the novel. And what I love about it is it's about 2 very flawed people coming together and calling each other out on their crap and how they transform together. And it's really subtle. And at the end, you're like, wait, they fell in love? But when you go back and reread it, the clues are there. And it's really, really a fantastic, easy read. And so it's something that I love to do to just cleanse my palate and get me into reading again.
That's amazing. And, I really take all of your recommendations to heart, because not only I just finding out you both are writers as well, but I feel like you're reading a lot of books, but you have such a great perspective and you're looking at things on a deeper level. And I'm so new to reading now that I'm reading newer books. I'm like, was that one as good as I remember? But since you all are so experienced and knowledgeable in all of this and different genres, I'm excited to tackle these. So thank you so much for those recommendations.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, at the end of the day, always remember that, the only opinion that's right is yours. So that's when it comes to literature and interpretation or anything, the only thing that matters is your own thoughts with it. I'm so excited for all the books that you had listed on your top list for the top 14 you had today. I've read them all and I was like, yes, exactly. I agree with you.
My God. Do you both have Goodreads? I want to follow you on here too.
I have a Goodreads. Yes. I need to update my profile
send me
photo.
That, maybe follow up, send me that. Or I would love to also share that as well.
Yes, please.
I need to get with the times. I don't have a Goodreads. Apparently, that's a project for this summer.
Do you read or do you do audiobooks?
So this is a life hack I learned from Book Talk. So I do a combo.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I'm able to read so fast now. So I have my Kindle, and at night I read, and then as I'm getting ready and as I'm driving, it automatically syncs to my Audible.
What? Wait.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is life-changing. That I can get through books so fast because every day I get ready because I'm always doing something on camera, and every day I'm driving somewhere. So I can really make progress. The only thing though, I will say, when it's a really good part, if it's like romance or like whatever, I have to read it. Like I won't,
Mm-hmm.
but like as we're moving the plot along and whatever, I do it on my Audible. So I know a lot of people, like purists, they want to read the physical copy of the book. But for me, there's two problems. First, I don't have space. Like that would, I'm a minimalist in that regard. And then secondly, like with my Kindle, I can read at night and not disturb my husband. Like I don't have to have lights on or anything. So it's just easier for me. And then I could sync it up to my Audible, and that's kind of how I do it.
I love Audible.
I steal from Jac's Audible all the time. It's funny you say that because I was totally going to enter your giveaway so that in the hopes I could get Jac the Kindle, because she keeps talking about wanting a Kindle.
I do want a Kindle.
Here's what I would say. Prime Day is coming up, and they go like on like 50% off, and Prime Day is coming up in about a month.
Oh my God. That's a really good idea. I probably will, because so I have my grandma's old Nook, which is fine, but I'm like, but I have Audible, but I didn't know that they sync up like that now.
Yeah, it automatically syncs up, and it's totally game changing for me. Because that's what I want to listen to now as I'm getting ready. Except right now I'm listening to a different book than I'm reading.
Oh,
and it's kind of messing with me because like my heart is in two different places. I can't do that. I have to be loyal to one. So now I'm going to finish one before I do the other.
I relate to that very deeply. I have to just do one at a time, but I'm an Audible book. I want to read, but I also want to brush my hair. So I can't do both.
I do find though that like I connect more emotionally when I'm reading it. So I do like the really emotional parts I'll read.
Yeah.
I don't know if you said you read The Bridge Kingdom. Did you read the second one?
Yes.
Like when I tell you, I was sobbing. Like my husband woke up and he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like here like sobbing at the end of that book.
It was really hard to like get through. I know exactly. Yes. That one was, there's only been two books not two. There's a handful of books that like really messed me up that I had to walk away from for a couple days. And that was one. And another one was like, I'm some succubus book that was like from popular in the early 2010s, and the boyfriend cheated on her. And I was like, my mom found me and I was devastated. Just like, she thought something horrible happened. I was like, they cheated on her. And it was, emotional parts. I don't know. Sometimes if it's too hard, like with The Bridge Kingdom, I just had to put it on Audible and put it on faster so that I was like, I need to get through this.
Yeah, and everyone is recommending these Colleen Hoover books to me. I mean, this is like what everyone is talking about. And I just read the one, which is it. Well, I read Verity, and then I read It Ends With Us, and it was like really like I'm too sensitive for this. Like some of the themes there were a bit much for me, and and I've heard a lot of her books can be sad like that, and so I'm not sure if that's what I want to get into.
No.
Yeah, sometimes there's enough sadness in the world. I just want a happy ending.
Yeah, I want an escape. I want something fun. I like a little spice in there.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I've now become my books have just such a specific formula to them now that it's like, I won't read it if it doesn't have spice, if it's not kind of burn of some kind or another, slow or fast. But yeah, it's we're in a really good time, I think, for literature, to be honest. Like, I think there's some amazing things out there, and you're out there doing the good work, reading them, putting them on your Goodreads, which I will now invade and follow.
And, I'm so excited about book talk. I mean, I think there's a whole new generation and love for reading. I mean, maybe it's always been there and people didn't have a way to connect as much as they do now, but I love it. I mean, the algorithm knows me. They just know to only show me book talk at this point.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so smart what you guys are doing too, and your whole podcast. And I think you're on to something really big. Now, my question for you, are you going to do the whole series? Are you planning on doing like the first 2 books and then going on to a different series?
Amy, would you like to tell her?
Sure. So at this point, Jac and I have personally committed to getting through the first 3. So up through Wings and Ruin. And then we probably need a palate cleanser because it was never our intention to do the series. We had planned for a different book to read a different book for season 2 because we wanted to bring diversity into our podcast. But the listeners demanded and we answered. So.
And you can't go into like Mist and Fury and then leave it at that. Like, so it's like, oh, okay, we're ready, we'll do it. So I would say that Wing and Ruin will definitely be an exciting one. We already have the theme music for that season too.
Oh, well, I'm excited. I'm a loyal listener. I was one of your first listeners.
You were.
You were.
On Book Talk, because like I said, I'm in deep. I think I came to that one, and I was like, I need to listen instantly because I had just finished, I think, the 3rd book. So the timing was perfect. And all the books that you guys could have been analyzing, I was right in the heat of it. So it was perfect. And I loved it. I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing. And it's really doing such a service to help people not just get into reading, but look at things on a deeper level and apply that to other aspects of their life. So keep doing what you're doing. I'm your biggest supporter.
No, we're your biggest supporter. We love you. Thank you so much.
And as you can see, I can talk about this for a long time. So anytime in the future you want to have me back, I would be more than happy to.
Oh my God.
We would love that.
We 100% will. We'll let you know about season 2. It's coming soon.
Well, this was so fun. I'm just so happy to get to talk to anyone about this. My poor husband, like I'm telling him, I make him listen to me tell him about these books that he has no interest in.
I think there are a lot of husbands out there who experience the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're never going to believe it. The bridge has fallen. He's like, what? It's a really important bridge. Okay.
Thank you so much for being a absolutely fabulous guest today, and I can't wait to talk more books with you later on down the line because I love your recommendations, and we're aligned. We are aligned.
Yes,
on the style.
We are. We have very similar taste. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time. This is my favorite thing to talk about, so it was just so much fun.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this special episode of Book Talk for Book Talk. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform.
As we gear up for Season 2, where we will deep dive into A Court of Mist and Fury, we will continue to share between-season thoughts and interviews with our listeners.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our form at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a weekly mini episode.
If you are enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon, Ko-Fi, or Venmo. Or find us on TikTok and Instagram at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.